Well, as you can see, Dr. George Schwab and Vaira Vike-Freiberga are very good friends. Both of them have similar experiences in that they both had to leave Latvia at the time that the Nazis occupied Latvia. And George, they had a little bit different experience, but George is a Holocaust survivor. He was just a young child, and he and his mother were taken to Germany and they were separated, but by some miracle, they were reunited and came to the United States. So I'm very pleased that George and I tonight will be able to give an award to Vaira. And it's an award from the organization that George was one of the co-founders of. It's what I do in my spare time when I'm not working on things for the Nizavigan Javi International Center. I'm the president and CEO of the National Committee on American Foreign Policy, which is based here in New York. And George is one of the founders, was founded with Hans Morgenthau in 1974. So this year is our 50th anniversary year. So it's really an honor for us to be able to give this award to Vaira in celebrating the 50th anniversary of the National Committee on American Foreign Policy. Dr. Schwab was one of the co-founders with Hans Morgenthau, and he served as the president from 1993 to 2014. And as I said, Carrie mentioned how she got to be involved with the Nizavigan Javi International Center. Well, it's really through George, because George was invited in 2018 to speak at this very conference, and he said, "Susan, why don't you go?" And I've been here ever since. They can't get rid of me. So, but anyway, so it's really an honor. And just to tell you a little bit about the award that we're going to give to Vaira, it is an award that the National Committee on American Foreign Policy bestows every year, and it's in honor of Hans J. Morgenthau. Each year, we honor a number of outstanding individuals like President Vike-Freiberga for their contributions to foreign policy, corporate leadership, arts, and beyond. The Hans J. Morgenthau Award was established in 1981 to commemorate the seminal contributions made by Professor Morgenthau to theory and practice of foreign policy. The persons honored with this award are those whose intellectual attainments and/or practical contributions to the fields of foreign affairs, international peace, and security have been judged to be exemplary in the spirit and the tradition of Professor Morgenthau. And just to name a few of the people who have received this award in the past, the Honorable Henry Kissinger, the Honorable Jeane Kirkpatrick, the Honorable George P. Shultz, the Right Honorable Margaret Thatcher, the Honorable Thomas Pickering, His Majesty King Hussein of Jordan, the Honorable Colin Powell, the Honorable Marty Ahtisaari, the Honorable Joseph Biden received it between when he was Vice President and President, and the Honorable Robert Gates, former Secretary of Defense. And finally, last year, we gave this award to former Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton for all the great work that she has done in the same field. You know, I don't think I need to go over again, because I can't tell it as eloquently as Carrie did, the kinds of things, Vaira, that you have done in your life. But in addition to being the first woman president of Latvia and the first woman president of an Eastern European country, it is true that you came back to Latvia, and within 1 year you were elected president. I think that is something that is just unbelievably something to be very proud of. But again, and as Carrie mentioned, when Vaira stopped being president, she didn't retire. She, in fact, I think probably took on more things and responsibilities in terms of being involved with the United Nations. She was an official candidate for the post of UN Secretary General in 2006. She's invited to speak many official events on a variety of topics. And for those of you who have heard Vaira speak, I don't think I've ever seen you use a note. She's always very eloquent and speaks from the heart. So I just want to say, I'm going to skip over what I was going to say about her life, but I want to also say that Vaira was one of the co-founders of this organization with Ismail Seragelden. So really, this fantastic organization, the Zavi Ganjavi International Center, was formed by two people with very good foresight and the ability to see what bringing together people like all of you can do to help change the world or make the world a little bit better place. So Vaira, I have to say, and I won't cry when I say this, but you've been an inspiration to me and an inspiration to all women and young men and women around the world. I can think of no one more qualified than you are to receive this award. And it is with great pleasure on behalf of the NCIP Board of Trustees, members, and staff that we present to you the Hans J. Morgenthau Award for your great service, not only to your country, but to the people of the world. So George and I want to very much thank you for what you've done and give you just a little token of how much we appreciate everything you've done.
Thank you.
So thank you. Oh yeah, we can take, get in the middle, yeah.
George, you want to say a few words?
You want to say something, George? Go ahead, yeah. Can you?
One of my great pleasures in life has been meeting Vaira Vike-Freiberga. Both of us were born in Latvia. Both of us had to leave Latvia. Vaira came back, was invited to become president of the country. I loved Latvia so very much that starting in 1990, I returned to Latvia almost every single year, to be more specific, until the outbreak of COVID. I have not been back to Latvia. I miss Latvia very much. It's a beautiful country. And I have bonded with Vaira Vike-Freiberga and her husband Iman some. And I am looking forward, I don't know if it will ever happen, that I can once more return to Latvia. It's my privilege to be your friend, and I just love you very much. Let me just...
Dear Susan, dearest George, I am deeply honored by this award that you have chosen to bestow on me. And if Kerry underlined the unusual twists and turns of the course of my life, then I must say that those that my friend George went through are infinitely more complex and more painful in their details. The Nazi occupation of Germany was part of the territorial expansion that had been in the minds of many German leaders ever since the First World War. When they invaded Belgium in the First World War, it was with the distinct intent of picking up territory to enlarge their Lebensraum, the room for living for the German people. When they displaced their friend Stalin, after all, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact of 1939 was a Stalin-Hitler pact that divided Eastern Europe between them, and both tyrants, of course, had meant to surprise and cheat the other, and the result was the Second World War. The brutality of the Soviet occupation is something that led to over 200,000 of a 2 million population leaving the country when they could, as the front was advancing and the Red Army was displacing the occupying Nazi army. But the brutality of the Nazi occupation, brief as it was, left behind it the greatest massacre of civilians that we had seen since the Great Northern War. The many wars in that part of Europe had been very bloody. We'd had many episodes of the Black Plague. The Latvian people had been submitted to a great many, too many atrocities and too many trials and tribulations. But what George lived in his own life, the Holocaust in Latvia, was something deeply and deeply tragic and recent. And I'd like to thank George here for having kept in his heart the possibility to reconcile with the country of his birth, despite the fact that under the German occupation, there were collaborators who helped the Nazis in their vicious designs, just as like under the Stalinist occupation, there were people whom people had considered local Latvians who were very surprised to see that many among them who had seemed to be Democrats and patriots all of a sudden became virulent and brutal communists. The extreme of these ideologies that make people commit atrocities continues to this day. But the reconciliation is part of it once they fall and once they lose their power. And George is the one who helped me convince American authorities and our future partners in NATO that the collaborationists who participated in the Holocaust happened to have been already punished under the Soviet system, that we had three laws on our books: a law against genocide, a law against crimes of humanity, a law against war crimes, there was no, if you like, with time, anybody could continue to be accused if any were found and any had any evidence. George was the one among our group of historians that I appointed to study what happened under the occupation, to get objective facts about it, and to describe what it's like for a small nation to survive brutal ideologies, to survive the inevitable collaborationism that happens, and to then heal the wounds and try and find a new path. And he was a shining example of forgiveness and understanding and a reconciliation between the Jewish community, what was left of it, and the Latvians who had been under 50 years of Soviet occupation. I am most grateful to George, and I count it a blessing that tonight, together with our friend Susan, he was able to come here to remind us of the fact that even the most horrible experiences and the most fearsome of trials can be overcome, and a person can achieve greatness and success. And particularly, George, in your case, you have made a brilliant path here in America, contributing significantly to the second track diplomacy that the club that you led would conduct, both for the Northern Ireland peace process, for relations with China. It is a great honor for me to count you as a friend, and it's a great honor, Susan, to thank to your board members and everybody else for remembering. I feel that through this we have also a recognition of a small nation that is unable to protect itself against huge hugely more powerful enemies, but there is hope. And like Joachim de Boulet, a classical French poet, said, "Heureux qui, comme Ulysse, a fait un beau voyage." Lucky who, like Ulysses, has made a voyage that is a beautiful voyage and that ends well. Thank you very much.